special survey on Pakistan?
That's right.
And is this connected to any conference or any?
No, what it is we're a press agency called Images Words, and we're commissioned to do special reports for the Observer on different countries, and we decided that this was an opportune time to come to Pakistan in order to produce this economic survey, which we're hoping to come out at the beginning of next year, January, or at the latest the beginning of February. And we actually produced one on Pakistan in 1991. So you studied at Oxford, I believe.
I did, yes.
So I'm from the competitive rival Cambridge, in fact.
Oh.
Did you read The Observer when you were in London?
I did, yes, I used to.
Good.
Excellent.
Occasionally I do it here also.
Ah, good.
But not very regularly. But now I'll be more regular.
Good. And I just wanted to show you, this is actually, we're going to do the new report that's coming out on Pakistan in a new format, which is bigger. And this is just a sort of a dummy match print that we've produced, just to show you. So this is the kind of format that the next report will come out in.
But this goes with one of your weekly supplements?
Yeah, well basically The Observer is a Sunday newspaper.
Yes.
It's one of the oldest.
It's the Sunday Observer, huh?
That's right. And
but it's called The Observer now.
That's
yes,
right.
I've got a copy here.
Yes. No, I've seen it recently.
Yes, that's right. And so basically our report will come inserted inside the newspaper on the Sunday. We've been producing
But
reports.
this is a hard copy. Would it be like this? Or
Yes, no, it will be in a sort of in a glossy magazine format like
Yes.
this, but it will be this new size.
This is the kind of new layout we are
And this
really
is done on a
producing.
weekly basis? You cover different countries? Or?
No, we basically we've produced more than 40 reports over the past few years. We've been to places like Poland, Romania, Indonesia.
I see.
And so they come out periodically.
Azerbaijan.
There's no regularity to it. You know, periodically you get them.
Sometimes it could be twice in a month, sometimes it could be once in a month, that's right. So they come out periodically as and when we produce them.
So you've done one on Azerbaijan?
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I wish I'd seen it before I went to Azerbaijan.
That's right, I might have it here actually.
But it appears to me that you became a very close friend of the president of Azerbaijan now.
Did you go there after my visit or before my visit?
I personally went there, but that was before your visit.
Yes, that was before.
Yes, he's a very experienced politician.
Mm.
He's a member of the Soviet Politburo. He's held positions of power for a long time. He's very nationalistic.
And Dukab Dudayev
And
is very...
independence-minded.
That's right.
Yes.
But they have serious problems
Yeah,
of refugees, of running the economy, maintaining their independence. But I could see that they're determined not to allow Russian border troops, and very firm on that.
I mean, Dukab Dudayev made this one of his main policies. Unlike Armenia or Georgia, his neighbors, he's strict on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
you talk of Pakistan?
That's right. So the objective of our report is really to give an overview of the whole economy and to focus really on the achievements and the investment opportunities in order to project the right image. Okay.
So I have a couple of prepared questions that I believe you might have seen before.
I've had a quick look at your questions just
Excellent.
now.
Very good.
But please feel free to ask any questions and
Very
I'll
good.
answer to the best of my ability.
Is that fine with you if I have this interview on tape? Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. President, you have maintained a great interest in attracting foreign investment and keeping track of Pakistan economic performance. What do you think is Pakistan's biggest challenge now?
Well, the biggest challenge is to maintain macroeconomic stability. We have otherwise many things in place in Pakistan to attract foreign private investment on a massive scale, to rapidly increase production and productivity in agriculture, to revive our manufacturing and industry sector. And there's, I think, remarkable potential for growth in all areas of the economy in Pakistan. Uh, Fiscal and monetary discipline, I feel, is fundamental, is as important as maintaining conducive law and order environment, because economic activity cannot be divorced from the environment, and the environment really means a stable law and order environment, the supremacy of the rule of law, people, investors, whether local or foreign, knowing what are the rules of the game, whether they have level playing fields or not, and at the same time an expectation of stability and of consistency in government's policies. Now in Pakistan we have, I think, a stable political system going. The constitution is functioning. Democracy, despite all the noise and din, is functioning in accordance with the constitution. And there is a remarkable degree of consensus on all major issues of a political nature. And these, in my view, in Pakistan, include the issue of Pakistan's security concerns, issues of such as Kashmir, and there's also, fortunately, a remarkable consensus which you don't see everywhere on the broad policies of the way the economy should be run, on privatization, on liberalization, on allowing the market forces of supply and demand to determine the way the economy should move, on relying on the private sector as a major engine of economic growth, on the need to deregulate, and also on the need to privatize as quickly as possible. There is total agreement amongst the major political groupings in Pakistan. The fact that they still oppose each other is part, I think, of the power play in Pakistan. Purely that and nothing beyond that. So where an economy has an expectation of stable policies, whether governments go or come, and in fact in the last 7 years there have been 7 changes of government. We've had 2 or 3 interim governments, 3 interim governments, and the government of Benazir first, and then, well, before that Junejo, then Benazir, then Nawaz Sharif, then again Benazir, with 3 interim prime ministers thrown in for periods of 3 months. We've had, despite all that, agreement on the major policies as far as the economy is concerned. I remember very clearly I was for 39 days finance minister in the interim government of Mr. Mazari, and what we worked out, the understanding with the IMF was what subsequently Nawaz Sharif agreed to, and subsequently what Mr. Moin Qureshi as the interim prime minister agreed to, and what Benazir agreed to later. So there is a remarkable degree of consistency and consensus in the nation. Given that, the government needs macroeconomic discipline in implementation. On the fiscal side, our performance has not been good in the past. I remember when I was a member of Benazir's first government. I was Minister for Water and Power. And actually, we took an active interest in the running of the economy. What we inherited from before was a fiscal deficit of roughly 8%. And we brought it down in 1.5 years of government significantly to almost 6%. And now, again, when the new government came into being in 1993, November, again the fiscal deficit was 7.9, roughly 8%. Yeah. And again we brought it down. We would have liked to bring it down at a quicker pace, in line with the formula agreed to with the IMF and other donor countries. But the conditions, the political conditions and economic conditions were such that the government felt that it would risk stability if they were to have a bigger tax effort. And it would also mean increases in prices and inflation, which the people may not accept, and that it could lead to agitation and weakening of the economy. So it was decided to maintain the same objectives as agreed to with the IMF, but to prolong the period. Now, naturally, this was in violation of the agreement.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, as far as the objectives for macroeconomic stability are concerned, or reduction in budget deficits are concerned, there is no difference of opinion on that. And right now, government's high officials, including the advisor to the Prime Minister on economic affairs, is in Washington. They are working out modalities of a new arrangement. But what I want to stress is that the government understands that it's very important, whether it's to control inflation, whether it's to generally guide the economy in a proper direction. It's important to exercise great fiscal discipline. Now, the biggest culprits in this have been the corporations under the government and the provincial governments. The federal government has tried its best to reduce to maintain fiscal discipline, but now they are determined to ensure that this is maintained across the board by the provincial governments and by the federal government corporations, etc. Monetary controls have also not been very effective. There have been violations consistently over the past decade. And the impact of fiscal indiscipline plus monetary indiscipline has been devastating. And it takes time for the economy to recover from it. Even if you pursue very strict policies, it will take some time before the effect is translated into reduced inflation, etc.
Do you think the IMF is likely to understand that and be ready to work out tailor-made package for Pakistan?
Well, IMF and Pakistan are constantly engaged in a dialogue, as you know, and we would naturally like to explain to them what our difficulties are, and they do understand.
Yeah.
They have their own viewpoint, but we do understand each other and we talk the same language. I don't think there are any difficulties about regarding objectives, but on the means to achieve those, also there's a fair amount of consensus and agreement. But on the time period and also on some institutional arrangements, like for instance on the GST, there were some expectations of revenue increases as a result of the GST. The government decided on the GST, they went ahead. But it took us longer than we thought to set up the administrative machinery for the GST.
Yeah.
So there have been delays of that type, but we have identified the problem areas and we are going to rectify that. Now the other thing, the other major constraint on our economy, and I have been talking about this again and again, is going to be the low rate of literacy in Pakistan. That's talking in the long-term or the medium-term context, the long-term context, with Pakistan still struggling at 35% rate of literacy, with women at half the literacy rates of men, we have a serious problem. And we have to concentrate more on that. This social action plan is designed to do that. But I maintain that development of our human resources must take even higher priority in resource allocation and in the commitment of political leadership, and also in the publicity that is given to it, so that we can have greater participatory development and participatory effort to involve the people in a movement for eradicating illiteracy, for getting women to get educated and so on. Because I feel that the poor direction of our education, which is not based on vocational and technological education, plus the low rate of literacy, is the biggest single drag, or going to be the biggest single drag on our economic and social development. So these are some of the areas of concern and what we need to concentrate on.
We've just been celebrating 2 years of the PPP government, and many foreign observers agree on guessing that Pakistan is on the way to stability, which is definitely what Pakistan needs at present time. We've been witnessing good macroeconomic figures. We've been witnessing some foreign investment, especially in water and power sector, for instance. What else would you say are the main achievements of your governments for the past 2 years?
Well, I am the president of Pakistan.
Yeah, but
I'm not associated with any political party anymore. I was.
That's right.
There's no constitutional bar from me either.
But
being associated, but I voluntarily resigned from the PPP. But I would like to say that on the broad economic framework, the government has tried to pursue policies which are rational and sensible. That there have been some shortcomings in implementation. And I have broadly talked about all these in my speech before the parliament just a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. But I would like to say that one area where we could move fast, very fast forward, is the area of increases in agriculture production. As you know, when the government came into power, agriculture was on a declining curve. Agriculture growth had declined to minus points. Our major crops, like wheat for instance, were static, and cotton had declined sharply. There were structural faults, there were other policy mistakes. The problems were not properly being identified or focused on. So there have been there has been a remarkable turnaround in that. Our current year's cotton crop should be
better this year.
Well over the target, and as a result of a good wheat crop, followed by a good rice crop, followed by a good cotton crop, I expect the contribution to the growth, to the GNP, to be a very significant one. And I expect us to overachieve the targets of 6.5% annual growth. So once we are in the 7% plus category, we are in a very advantageous position vis-a-vis controlling inflation if we keep other disciplines like fiscal and monetary disciplines with this upsurge in overall production. And not only will we curb inflation, but we'll have more surpluses to invest or reinvest and grow from strength to strength. These are real gains, I think, and they need to be. And they're also part of a policy of stability and of allowing market forces to play their role. In the case of cotton, the government has, for instance, 2 years ago, in '94, July, they announced a policy that would enable the textile sector and cotton sector to be at par with the international prices and so on, to allow free import and export of cotton. Now, that has certainly played a very major role in increasing cotton production. There have been efforts to derail that policy, but the government is by and large sticking to that policy. This will certainly have a positive impact. Our own wheat production had been static for a long time, and suddenly last year there was a big increase. On oil seeds, Pakistan is importing, as you know, huge amounts of edible oil. That's been an area of weakness, but now we've introduced canola, and it's certainly grown in acreage and production, and we hope that in the next 2 or 3 years we'll be able to make significant impact in becoming self-sufficient in edible oils. We may have been self-sufficient, but there's a lot that is being smuggled into Afghanistan and maybe Central Asia and right up to Russia. But we have leaky borders because of the special environment. But we do feel that Pakistan has the potential, is well poised to make rapid increases in agricultural production.
Yeah, definitely so.
Also on the water side, on the drainage side, on the on-farm water management side, the government has decided to reprioritize, and as a result of understanding between the federal government and the provinces have also agreed to increase water rates, etc., which will enable the government to be recipient of soft loans from the Asian Bank and from Japan to the tune of about $800 million, which will help our infrastructure, the drainage infrastructure, the canal infrastructure. All that is going to have a very positive impact on our agriculture, overall total production.
Fertilizers
the
as well?
manufacturing sector, especially the cotton textiles, which was a major manufacturing sector in Pakistan, had been suffering due to lack of attention, lack of firm government policies, the government taking policies in a pendulum swinging motion on account of different lobbies that would come and persuade the government from time to time. What was needed was a stable creation of stable environment, a relief package to get the textile sector out of the doldrums, to provide financial packages and packages for exports. A recent devaluation, for instance, along with the textile relief package, should go a long way in reviving the textile sector, and also in bringing into place more rational policies than we've had in the past, because in the past the textile spinning sector had an inordinate advantage because of their influence over government in one form or the other. They made sure that they got the raw material in Pakistan at a price which was 40 to 50% less than the world price, which of course badly affected the prospects of growth of cotton as a crop, and Pakistan's natural advantage was lost, and at the same time they were dumping the yarn at prices which were less than the price of raw cotton, and they were also in a sense prevented from adding to their equity and investment in the higher value added sectors. So they just relied on being content with the spinning sector, whereas South Korea 3 years ago was adding something like $35 to $40 per pound of higher value added. Pakistan was only doing $6 or $7. So look at the faulty policies. And now we hope that by bringing about the interplay of market forces, allowing those to rule, we are going to get investment, better integration of the textile sector with more high value added. And we hope that this will not only get us more export earnings, but would also improve the range of our products market. So we hope that in all these areas, and again, there were very serious deficiencies in the energy sector, in the power sector. Government's policy, which was, in my view, a well-structured policy, which invited and created a lot of interest in the foreign private sector with all its resources. And as you know, you require huge capital investments in these areas. It enabled us to remove this serious shortcoming in a very short period of time. And we hope that in the next 3 or 4 years we'll have massive investment on the thermal power side. At the same time, our energy program on the fuel side and petroleum side is attracting funds and expertise for new oil refineries, for pipeline systems, for gas and oil exploration on a large scale. There's intense activity that is going on in all these areas. I hope and I wish that the government should also soon come up with, well, we have a hydel policy, but remove the present shortcomings where there are some problems between the provinces and the federal government, and this is thwarting private sector investment on a large scale. But our natural advantage lies in developing thermal, in hydropower, and I think just with a few changes here and there, we can have a very active hydropower policy, which would bring in huge investments, and also that will not be a drain on our foreign exchange reserves, because fuel, water is the fuel, and
That's
that's natural, God-given. So we hope that by these investments we will be moving forward fast, but we need to invest more in our human resources. We need to invest in other areas and open up and rationalize our policies in, say, the information field, in the software field, in modern information technologies. There's a tremendous potential for
And
growth.
in order to reach this kind of growth, to be considered as a real Asian tigers, I'm sure one of the priorities of the government is as well taking a closer look at low saving rates, at the population growth rate, as well as maybe creating more job opportunities, maybe with developing the infrastructure.
Yes, job opportunities will be created by investment. If we are going to allow the private sector to be the leading engine of growth, then yes, the more activity there is, the more jobs there will be. And I'm pretty sure that we will have jobs both from the private sector investment that is coming from abroad, as well as downstream industries that are going to be put up, that are being put up in Pakistan today. Also, there is need for a great deal of infrastructural work in farm to market roads, in communications, in major road arteries, railway systems being improved.
We've been witnessing the progress in ports and shipping as
Ports
well.
and shipping, we have a lot of private sector interest in that too, in container terminals, and new ports, for instance at Gwadar, at KT Bandar, and so on, in improving the facilities at second port in Karachi, Port Qasim. So there are a number of activities that are right now going on that will create new jobs, but we also need to, through our public sector spending on infrastructure facilities, open and create new jobs, which are being done through programs which directly affect production and productivity. For instance, there is a tremendous need for many more farm to market roads. That brings a lot of benefits. It creates new jobs while construction is going on, and so on. And similarly for drinking water supply schemes in the backward areas, based on gravity flow, based on tapping rainwater and ponds and springs. It also brings a lot of relief to people and improves their quality of life and reduces the chances of disease and so on. So there is a lot of activity going on in Pakistan, but I feel this can be further promoted and increased with better implementation, with greater participation of the people in it.
And do you think increasing the literacy rate will provide the population with this kind of awareness? And do you think as well as increasing the literacy rate will act on the population growth rate?
Oh yes, there's a direct relationship between spread of knowledge, education, and population growth rates, and also in spreading knowledge and literacy amongst women. The household changes, the atmosphere and the environment in a household changes, the women get educated. So that is why I feel that it's very important to emphasize and focus on women's education. Also, I think it's very important for us to realize that even the quality of education has to change. It has to move more towards vocational education, so that people who have gone through the education system do not become or join the army of educated unemployed, but they are readily taken up by the economy. What society demands, what economy demands, is what we should provide.
Sure.
And there again, there's a mismatch right now. Our universities and our colleges and our schools are churning up arts graduates who have no skills. The economy has no use for these people. So the direction of education has to change. Only this morning I was addressing the Quaid-e-Azam University convocation, and I
Where is
gave
it
it to them.
located?
Sorry?
Where is it located?
Well, the Quaid-e-Azam University is located in
Here, in Islamabad?
It's the biggest, the major university here. But they were having their convocation, and we had this function in the morning. So I talked about that. I suppose we'll read about it in a garbled way in the newspapers. But